Hey everyone, welcome back to Manga Minute. I'm thrilled to share my latest recap video with you. If you missed the previous one, no worries, just take a quick peek in the description below for the link. Now, let's dive right in and enjoy.
Luke prepared to confront the impending threat, his eyes narrowing with determination. An odd entity had come to their village, and he knew he was probably the best fighter they had. With urgency, he gave out his orders, urging the villagers to evacuate to safety while he bought them some time. The villagers, in a bid to defend their home, suggested throwing the thieves at the mysterious entity. This, they thought, would be a good chance to test if the thieves had truly reformed. Before they could prepare to confront the unknown creature, Satin suddenly appeared, causing a stir among the villagers. Luke, startled, responded in disbelief, calling out Satin's name. Berlit, concerned, asked if Satin was okay and mentioned seeing a huge creature nearby. As he noticed what Satin had brought, he added with surprise, "Wait!" With a sense of pride, Satin boasted about hunting a couple of orcs. Orcs were known to be ill-tempered and dangerous, capable of wreaking havoc on a village by themselves. Their meat was rare and considered a luxury, akin to high-grade pork, savory with a pleasant and light aftertaste, packed with nutrients. The villagers were amazed at the sight of the orcs, remarking on their capture. Berlit eagerly inquired about how long it would take to taste the meat. Seeing the excitement, Milia volunteered to start preparing the orcs immediately. The women of the village, equipped with their butchering tools, quickly got to work, eager to transform the prized catch into a feast. As Lando noticed Luke's pale complexion, he asked, "You okay, Chief?" Covering his mouth, Luke replied, "I was just thinking that this is just as impressive as fighting on the battlefield." As the orc steak was served, Noelle's eyes widened in awe. Orc meat was a rare delicacy, and its appearance at their table was astonishing. Taylor, more practical-minded, suggested they should sell it instead of consuming it, given its high value. However, Lando, unable to contain his excitement, eagerly dug into the meat. His enthusiasm was infectious as he quickly took a bite and declared how incredibly good it was. Luke, watching him, initially thought Lando was exaggerating. But Lando, insistent, urged Luke to try it for himself, stuffing a piece of the meat into the chief's mouth. As Luke chewed, he was surprised by the burst of savory juices filling his mouth. The meat was chewy yet tender, almost melting with each bite. He couldn't recall orc meat ever tasting this good before. Satin, observing the scene with a knowing smile, explained that the freshness of the meat made all the difference. Orcs were typically found deep in the woods or in remote regions, so by the time their meat reached the village, several days had usually passed. This travel time often affected the flavor. The orc meat they were now enjoying had been cut into manageable pieces and transported quickly, ensuring its freshness. Lando, impressed by Satin's knowledge, playfully praised him as a true orc meat connoisseur. Satin, slightly scoffing, clarified that his explanation was mainly for Luke's benefit, wanting to ensure the chief understood the rarity and quality of the meal they were enjoying. As Luke noticed the little girl hesitating, he inquired about her reluctance, wondering if she didn't like the meat. The girl explained that it wasn't the meat itself but something else that had been bothering her, a mysterious concern she referred to as the curse of the balls. Milia, catching on to the conversation with a playful laugh, mentioned the girl's fixation and announced that the special dish was almost ready. She swiftly brought a plate to the table, presenting the Orcish ball broil. Luke was taken aback by the dish, questioning why Milia would prepare something so unusual. Milia explained that the dish was excellent for stamina and packed with nutrients, something she used to make back at the castle. Berlit added his thoughts, mentioning his experience with similar dishes made from bull or horse, but this was his first time trying anything from an orc. The little girl, her eyes widening, remarked on the size of the orc's balls. Milia encouraged everyone to give it a try, and the villagers, curious and a bit apprehensive, asked about the taste. Milia described the dish as orc testes simmered in a sweet and spicy sauce. As the little girl took a bite, she shared her thoughts, noting that the outside was crispy while the inside was gooey. She mentioned that it was hard and had a strong smell, but she seemed to enjoy it. Berlit observed with surprise how the women, including the girl, were more enthusiastic about the dish than he had anticipated. Time flew by and half a year had passed since Luke founded this village. Luke, noticing the drop in temperature, commented on the chill in the air to Taylor, who was diligently working in the fields. Taylor agreed, acknowledging that it was time to start preparing for winter. Their conversation was interrupted by Berlit's sudden appearance. Luke, curious, asked what was going on. Berlit explained that he and a few others had been discussing taking a trip home, driven by concern for their parents. He assured Luke that only 5 of them would go, so the village wouldn't be affected. Luke, always considerate, suggested that Berlit bring his parents to the village, as there was plenty of room. However, Berlit declined, doubting his parents could endure the journey. Seelan quickly offered to act as a guard for the trip, emphasizing that Berlit and the others wouldn't make it back safely on their own. Barlat, sharing the concern, volunteered his help, worried about his own parents as well. Seelan assured that while the entire hunting team couldn't go, a few members could be spared to assist. The reformed thieves, eager to prove their loyalty, chimed in, pleading to be allowed to help. They expressed their willingness to act as shields or decoys, even sacrificing themselves if necessary. Luke, though impressed by their enthusiasm, felt uneasy about letting them leave the village just yet. He acknowledged their high loyalty but remained cautious. Seelan, confident and reassuring, pointed out that only 5 thieves would accompany them, and more muscle would be beneficial. She boldly stated that if they betrayed the group, she would deal with them harshly. The thieves, in agreement, affirmed that Seelan's threat was enough to keep them in line. With the plan set, the group prepared for the journey, their collective determination and loyalty strengthening their resolve to protect and reunite with their loved ones. Waving his hand toward the departing group, Luke shouted, "Safe travels." Then he murmured, "I'm still not sure if I can trust those thieves." Donga chimed in, "It's scary to think people can be reformed so easily, huh?" Another villager joined in, "Yeah, I still flinch a little every time I see them." As Luke rearranged his village using his move facility skill, he meticulously planned the new layout. He moved the fields to a more optimal location, added rows of houses, and constructed layers of stone walls for better defense. Once he completed his task, he stood back, satisfied with his work. Donga, noticing the changes, was impressed by the layers of stone walls that had been added for protection. Taylor, admiring the new view, offered to manage the fieldwork, ensuring the new arrangement would be well maintained. Luke explained that he had also created living spaces for the newly reformed thieves. This move was intended to help them feel more at ease and integrate better into the village. He envisioned them working the fields and contributing to the village's defense, fostering a sense of community and purpose. Satin, deeply moved by Luke's gesture, expressed profound gratitude. He promised to repay Luke's kindness by using his telepathic abilities to watch the wilds for any danger. His gift would allow him to report any threats directly to Luke, enhancing the village's security. Donga admired Satin's gift, recognizing how useful and reliable it was. Taylor, excited about the potential, noted that Satin's telepathy could also help identify any suspicious individuals, adding an extra layer of protection for the village. Satin, with a sense of pride, confirmed his ability to read thoughts and his willingness to use his gift for the village's benefit. Taylor, amazed by the usefulness of Satin's telepathy, wondered aloud why someone with such a valuable gift had turned to thievery in the past. Luke, intrigued by Satin's past, asked about his previous life, having heard that he was once part of a merchant family. Satin revealed the hardships he faced after receiving his gift. He explained that while his telepathic ability could have been valuable, others perceived it as dangerous. From the moment he acquired the gift, his life became a nightmare. Even his parents, whom he had trusted deeply, had feared his ability. He recalled the painful moment when he overheard their thoughts, filled with anxiety and distrust about his potential to betray them. They had even considered getting rid of him to protect their other children and themselves. Fleeing from this betrayal, Satin had encountered the boss of a gang of thieves. Despite the boss's intimidating demeanor, he saw the value in Satin's gift and welcomed him into the gang. The simplicity and straightforwardness of the gang members made it easier for Satin to adapt and find a sense of belonging. Taylor, upon hearing Satin's story, admonished him. He insisted that despite Satin's difficult past, it did not justify harming others. He demanded that Satin make amends for his past actions by starting with some chores. Satin, acknowledging his mistakes, agreed to Taylor's demand. He expressed his readiness to prove his worth and continued preparing for his tasks. Just then, Milia arrived, calling out to Luke with exciting news that Berlit and the others had returned. For Satin, who had the ability to read minds, it was a shock when he accidentally intercepted Milia's thoughts. He realized how deeply obsessed she was with Luke, and the intensity of her fixation caused Satin to vomit blood from the sheer force of her obsession. As Berlit's father greeted Luke, he expressed his gratitude, recognizing Luke as the head of the village. He had heard many positive things about Luke from his sons and was deeply appreciative. Luke welcomed him warmly, showing his hospitality. However, his attention quickly shifted to the group of men accompanying Satin. He noticed that their clothes seemed familiar and voiced his observation. Satin clarified that the men were thieves who had attacked them, but after a confrontation, it was discovered that they were remnants of the same gang they had previously dealt with. Among the captured thieves, one of the reformed members addressed his former comrades with a message of enlightenment and redemption, insisting that they too would come to see the truth and embrace a just life. The captured thieves, taken aback, reacted with disbelief, arguing against the notion. The reformed thief continued to reassure them, expressing confidence that with time, they would understand the value of living a righteous life, just as he and others had come to appreciate. At that same time, a few miles away, Manta and his father, Mack, trudged through the barren wilderness, their spirits dampened by the bleak landscape. Manta, frustrated by their fruitless search, pointed out the absence of trees and grass, expressing his doubts about finding any villages in such an inhospitable area. Mack, resolute despite the dire circumstances, urged Manta to keep searching. He was determined to find a solution to their predicament, driven by the harsh reality of their village's dwindling food supplies and increased taxes. His desperation to avoid starvation fueled his persistence. Manta, growing increasingly weary, lamented their prolonged journey and the futility of their search. Mack, irritated by Manta's complaints, scolded him for his whining, further expressing his frustration over the recent poor harvest and the additional tax burdens, which seemed to be feeding more war efforts rather than benefiting their own needs. Manta, voicing his frustration, questioned the likelihood of finding the Lord's son in such a remote area. He reasoned that the young lord, who had been expelled at a young age, was either dead or had fled to another domain. Mack, undeterred, explained that they couldn't afford to wait idly for death. He clung to the hope that newly developed lands might offer work and financial opportunities, potentially alleviating their dire situation. Manta continued to express discontent with his life, regretting his birth in a small, unremarkable village and lamenting missed opportunities to become an adventurer. Mack, responding with sarcasm and irritation, criticized Manta for his lack of courage and original ideas. He pointed out that Manta's complaints about their situation were unhelpful, and emphasized his own sacrifice in accompanying his son on this challenging quest. Suddenly, Manta's attention was captured by a distant sight, and he urgently pointed out what he believed to be a stone wall. Mack, engulfed in his anger and frustration, dismissed Manta's observation as a distraction and threatened to confront him about his complaints. Despite Mack's frustration, Manta persisted, insisting that he had seen something significant. He darted towards the direction he had indicated, convinced that it might be a village. Mack, initially reluctant and worried about Manta's recklessness, called out to him to be cautious and to watch his step as he followed in pursuit. Luke, looking out through the window at his villagers, noted with satisfaction how content they appeared. The joyful atmosphere within the village was palpable, a testament to the positive changes and recent efforts. Satin agreed, observing that the villagers seemed exhausted but happy, and suggested that they should rest, though it was clear they had much to catch up on after their recent trials. As Luke prepared for the night, he bid everyone good night, heading towards his own room to rest. Milia and Satin wished him the same, signaling their readiness for the end of the day. To Luke's surprise, despite having their own rooms, Satin and Milia, as was their habit, chose to join him once again in his bed. Their fondness for his company led them to crowd together in the same bed, despite the separate sleeping arrangements they had available. This familiar routine of their close-knit bond brought a sense of warmth and unity to the end of the day. Satin sent out a telepathic report. "Chief, 2 men are approaching the village." Upon receiving the telepathic message, Luke exclaimed, "Whoa, I just got a report from Satin. He says someone's coming." Milia suggested, "Maybe they're refugees?" Weary from their arduous journey, Mack and his son Manta finally arrived at the village. Mack introduced himself as the chief of the village of Mao located to the south, with his son by his side. Luke, contemplating their origins, wondered if they were from the Albert domain. He introduced himself as the head of the village, curious about their background. Mack, recognizing Luke's name, inquired if he was the son of Lord Albert. This revelation surprised Luke, who was taken aback by the recognition. Mack explained that he had heard about Lord Albert's orders for his son to cultivate a vast wasteland, and noted that it seemed Luke had been working on it for quite some time. Luke confirmed that he had been working on the village for about half a year. Mack, visibly incredulous, expressed his astonishment at the brief time frame. Meanwhile, Manta marveled at the transformation, struggling to believe that such progress could have been made in just half a year. He speculated whether Lord Albert had prepared everything in advance. Luke greeted Mack and Manta with curiosity about their visit. Mack explained that with the onset of another large-scale war, they were searching for a place to earn some money during the winter months. Luke responded positively, offering them a place in his village. As he absorbed the news of the impending war, he pondered the broader implications. The mention of another large-scale conflict suggested a clash between the powerful houses of Albert and Schonegger, two of the five great powers. Despite being neighbors, these houses were known for their strained relations. Luke also wondered about Raoul's potential involvement in the upcoming battle, reflecting on how the shifting political landscape might affect them all. Mack, expressing his gratitude for the warm welcome, voiced his appreciation, noting his surprise at the kindness extended to them. He had grown accustomed to the notion that nobles were indifferent to the struggles of common people. Manta, aware of his father's tendency to speak candidly, tried to intervene, but Mack, realizing he had overstepped, quickly apologized for his remarks. Luke, assuring Mack that there was no need for concern, reflected inwardly on the possibility of what might have been if he had received the gift of holy swordsmanship. He wondered how his perspective on suffering and the expectations placed upon him might have shifted. His thoughts briefly touched on the broader failings of the nobility, though he remained focused on the present. Mack, eager to share the good news with his village back in Mao, prepared to return and spread word of their newfound opportunity. Luke, seizing the moment to offer further assistance, extended an invitation for Mack's entire village to move in as well. He assured them that the village had ample food supplies to accommodate everyone. Mack, initially stunned by the generous offer, considered the legacy of his ancestors and the village they had built. However, his attempt to express hesitation was interrupted by Manta, who stopped him from continuing. A couple of days later, Mack and his fellow villagers from Mao arrived at Luke's village. Luke welcomed them warmly, expressing his pleasure at meeting everyone. Manta, impressed by the transformation of the village, remarked on the impressive walls and flourishing crops. His astonishment was evident as he realized that the rumors about Luke's supposed junk gift were unfounded. Luke confirmed that while he hadn't received the gift of holy swordsmanship, he had been endowed with the gift of village building. Although initially unable to use this gift effectively back home, he had made significant progress with it in this new location. At that moment, a shout announced the return of Satin and her hunting team. They brought with them an impressive haul of monsters, including several almirages. Manta was stunned by the sight of the rare creatures and remarked on the remarkable success of the hunt. Satin, noticing the new arrivals from Mao village, suggested a feast to celebrate their arrival and the successful hunt. Luke, observing the bounty brought in by Satin, reflected on the number of almirages and orcs they had previously acquired. He wondered why Satin was so boastful, even though their accomplishments were substantial. His thoughts were interrupted when Satin unveiled an additional prize, a great boar. Luke was astonished by the feat of bringing down such a large and formidable creature. Satin explained the details of the hunt, crediting the effectiveness of the weapons Luke had provided. She highlighted how Noel and Gart had used their large shields to stop the boar, allowing the team to target its neck. Luke, inspecting the battle damage on the shield he had crafted, noted that despite its thickness, it had been dented in the fight. Barlat proudly remarked on how much stronger they had become. Mack, overwhelmed by the sheer success and unexpected turn of events, pinched Manta's cheek in disbelief, marveling at the scene before him. As the preparations for the feast began, the villagers eagerly urged everyone to start cooking, praising the hunters for their efforts. Luke, keen on ensuring that Mack's group didn't have to do any heavy lifting, reassured them that they could relax after their long journey from Mao. Mack, grateful for the warm reception, indicated a spot where he and his group could set up their tent. He mentioned that they would manage on their own, but before he could finish his sentence, his eyes widened in shock as a building suddenly materialized in the designated area. Astonished, he remarked on the sudden appearance of the structure. Luke explained that the building was the result of his gift of village building, a power that allowed him to create various structures and facilities. While the gift had its limitations, it was clearly more versatile than Mack had anticipated. Mack expressed his awe, acknowledging that although people had spoken of Luke's gift as useless, it was indeed incredibly valuable. Luke, however, downplayed the significance of his gift, noting that it only worked within this specific location and could be seen as limited in scope. A notification appeared before Luke, informing him of a milestone. "Congratulations! You have exceeded 1,000 villagers. You are now village level 6. Since then, the influx of new residents has not ceased. 92 people from Mao had already joined the village, and soon more refugees arrived in search of refuge. The steady stream of newcomers showed no sign of slowing down. Among the new arrivals was a lady with her family, pleading for help as they arrived with empty hands. Luke welcomed them with assurance, promising to provide the assistance they needed. Other refugees followed, some seeking work and others hoping for a permanent place to stay. One man inquired about the village's reputation for caring for its people, while another expressed his urgency and hunger, demanding to be fed. Despite the growing crowd and mounting pressure, Luke hesitated momentarily, preparing to address their needs while maintaining the village's resources and sustainability. The reformed thieves routinely patrol the wasteland areas to ensure people can traverse it safely. That might explain the recent rush of people. Berlit remarked on the village's expansion, noting how much it had grown. Luke acknowledged the development, observing that rumors about their village were spreading rapidly. Seelin added that the news of the impending war was intensifying, suggesting that it was only a matter of time before their village might become a target. She emphasized the need to prepare thoroughly for any potential threats. Milia, with a sense of determination, offered her help, confident in her abilities to assist with her oracle gift. Luke reflected on the power of gifts and the impact they could have if 10% of the population possessed them. After assessing everyone in the village, he discovered that about 100 villagers, including children, had some form of potential gift. These gifts ranged from exploration and magic to manufacturing. Among them, 24 had gifts related to fighting. Excluding the children and the elderly, that left him with 19 villagers who could potentially support him in making the most out of their gifts. Wide support is crucial to maximizing the benefits of these abilities. Upon hearing the news about the gifts, the villagers exclaimed, "Whoa! So many people have gifts. Nice. Life is going to be easy." Another villager added, "Guess we don't have to work anymore, huh?" Berlit, with a grim expression, intervened. "Where did you get that idea? Sure. Gifts are great to have, but we still need everyone's help to keep this village running." "Got it. There aren't many different types of jobs in the village just yet, so Luke can't assign everyone to the exact role their gift suggests. That said, having them work in similar jobs has helped foster a strong sense of community." Luke, deep in thought about his village, said, "Now my remaining concern is village loyalty. The lower a person's loyalty to the village, the more likely they are to leave. Hopefully, things will continue to go well. The more villagers Luke has, the more issues arise. Low village loyalty often leads to low morale and creates all sorts of additional problems. Luke has actively stepped in to address these concerns. Fortunately, sometimes all it takes to boost morale is simply asking them about their concerns. Luke has managed to nip some of these issues in the bud." As he observed the man with low loyalty, Luke murmured, "But he was getting along so well with everyone." However, the more he observed, the more apparent the man's problematic behavior became. To address the issue, Luke sought Granny Nima's help. Feeling overwhelmed by the mounting work, Luke lamented, "The day is too short. I'm not done yet." Noticing Luke's distress, Berlit reassured him, "Yeah, things are a bit tense in the village right now, but I'm sure everyone will come together in time." In the meantime, as Luke worked on improving the village, he managed to surpass the milestone of 1,000 villagers. With this achievement, several new facility options became available, including an underground tunnel, shop, castle gate, training grounds, and an apartment complex. Upon discovering the apartment complex option, Luke was excited. He recalled that apartments had been quite common in his previous life. Noting their practicality, the complex offered 20 living spaces, each equipped with its own bath and toilet, features that were a significant upgrade from the row houses. Without hesitation, Luke used 300 village points to build the apartment complex, eager to enhance the living conditions for his growing population. As Luke observed the newly constructed apartment complex, he felt a sense of satisfaction. He noted to himself that the 300 points spent on the complex were well worth it. Reflecting on the village's development, he realized that while he hadn't made many changes to the areas enclosed by the stone walls, the village had grown substantially with each level. The entire wasteland was now part of the village, and the ability to create facilities outside the walls represented a significant advancement. While Luke was deep in thought about these developments, Granny Nima approached, her demeanor tinged with concern. She admitted feeling somewhat ashamed, despite the success of rehabilitating the thieves. She revealed that two individuals remained resistant to change, including their leader, Doriel. Despite her efforts, Doriel remained unyielding, showing no reaction to her attempts, which suggested he had faced death multiple times and had a hardened resolve. Satin, who was nearby, sympathized with Granny Nima's struggle, noting how difficult it must be to reform someone like Doriel. Granny Nima, however, found the challenge intriguing. The real concern, she explained, was Bar, another member of the gang who was proving to be problematic in his own way. As Satin and Luke approached the prison cell, Satin pointed out the figure inside with a mix of recognition and disdain. It was Bar, one of the original members of the gang they had captured. Bar greeted them with a sneer, clearly unimpressed by their presence. His face twisted into a contemptuous expression as he insulted Granny Nima, refusing to acknowledge any possibility of change. Granny Nima, already frustrated by Bar's attitude, was incensed by his disrespect. She reacted with palpable fury, her anger transforming into a relentless assault. She struck Bar repeatedly, her movements driven by both indignation and a fierce determination to break through his hardened exterior. Despite the severity of her attack, Bar's reaction was oddly nonchalant. He emitted a peculiar moan, which caught Luke's attention. Luke, surprised, wondered if Bar was indeed the source of the strange sound. Bar, undeterred, continued to taunt them, dismissing the pain inflicted by Granny Nima as inconsequential. He mocked her efforts, maintaining a defiant stance despite the abuse. Granny Nima, exasperated by his masochistic resilience, concluded that Bar was not just resistant but seemed to derive a perverse satisfaction from the punishment.